What happened when an undercover CEO walked into his own bowling alley disguised as a night cleaner? He expected a few dirty floors, but what he uncovered was a toxic manager, mistreated staff, and safety hazards that put customers at risk. This wasn't just a visit, it was a wake-up call, and the way he responded shook the entire company. Logan Pierce sat in his glass-walled office, overlooking the Minneapolis skyline, the soft hum of bowling alley promotional ads playing faintly on a nearby monitor. At 42, he was the self-made founder of Maple Lanes, a bowling center chain that had started with a dusty 6-lane alley in rural Nebraska and grown into 20 locations across the Midwest. He still remembered scrubbing gum off ball returns and offering free shoe rentals just to fill seats, but success had distanced him from the day-to-day. Now he relied on reports, spreadsheets, and polished monthly briefs from district managers like Brent Maloney. That morning, a string of new online reviews from their Des Moines location, Maple Lanes 4, caught his eye. Words like unsanitary, hostile staff, and mold, smell in the party room, flashed across his screen. Logan frowned, reading complaint after complaint about broken arcade machines, long wait times, and a manager who ignored safety concerns. Brent had already brushed the issues off via email. Normal growing pains, he claimed, some difficult customers. But Logan felt the same itch he used to get in his gut when a pin setter made a sound it shouldn't. Something was off. The Des Moines location was one of their oldest and busiest. It was the 4th alley he'd ever opened, and one he hadn't personally visited in nearly 3 years. Most of the staff were likely new and wouldn't recognize him even if he walked through the doors. The idea hit him like a perfect strike. He'd go undercover, see the truth with his own eyes. He texted an old friend from his early alley days, a graphic designer, to whip up a fake ID under the name Eli Brooks. He darkened his salt and pepper beard, threw on a faded hoodie, and used a burner email to apply online for the part-time night cleaner position. 2 days later, the location responded. "Can you start Monday? We're short-handed." Logan smiled. Staff shortage confirmed. Messy lanes explained. But he knew better than to jump to conclusions. There was only one way to know for sure, and this time he wouldn't be walking in as the boss, but as a ghost in the gutters, ready to find the cracks no one had dared to report. Logan arrived at Maple Lanes 4:15 minutes before his scheduled shift, dressed in a thrift store windbreaker, worn jeans, and sneakers with just enough scuff to make him look like someone down on their luck. The parking lot was dimly lit, the neon "open" sign flickering with a buzz. As he pushed through the front doors, the sound of clattering pins echoed faintly from the back lanes, but the lobby itself was eerily lifeless. No music, no chatter, just a faint smell of grease and rubber. He stood near the counter for nearly 2 full minutes before anyone acknowledged him. Finally, a young woman with a tight ponytail, tired eyes, and a lane polisher in hand walked by and paused. "You here for the night cleaning job?" she asked flatly. Her name tag read Nina, and her tone wasn't rude, just worn thin. "Yeah, Eli Brooks," he replied, offering a hand. She glanced at it, then back toward the main hallway. "Manager's in back. Follow me." Nina led him past arcade machines that blinked with dead pixels and snack bar counters coated in a thin film of old nacho cheese. In the cramped back office, the manager, Craig Dorsey, was leaning back in a swivel chair, phone in one hand, sandwich in the other. He didn't get up. "You the cleaner guy?" he mumbled, still scrolling. "Yeah, first day," Logan said. Craig finally glanced up, eyes narrowed. "Got shoes with non-slip soles?" "Sure do." "Fine. Shadow Nina. Clock in. And don't be late again." "It's my first—" Craig waved him off before he could finish. "Whatever, just don't make trouble." Nina gave Logan a look that said, "Don't bother." Not surprising. Just quiet resignation. As they walked back toward the maintenance closet, Logan took stock. The lane area was dimmer than standard. Half the overhead lights were either out or flickering. The party room smelled faintly of mildew. Machines along the wall displayed out-of-order signs scrawled in permanent marker. "How long have those machines been down?" Logan asked. "Weeks," Nina said without stopping. "No one's come to fix them." As they passed the employee schedule posted near the storage room, Logan noticed entire shifts marked TBD. "Are you always this short?" he asked. Nina shrugged. "Depends on who Craig's mad at that week." By the end of his first hour, Logan already knew this wasn't just a bad week. It was a broken system no one had dared to fix. Nina wasted no time putting Logan to work. She handed him a bucket filled with lane polish, a battered mop with duct-taped handle, and a cloth apron that reeked faintly of beer and bleach. "Don't bother asking for gloves," she said as she led him toward lane 8. "Craig says we go through too many." Logan kept his expression neutral, but his stomach churned. As they made their way through the rows, he took in the details: chipped floor tiles beneath the ball returns, scuff marks on the scoring monitors, and multiple ceiling panels sagging slightly from old leaks. The arcade section, dimmed and mostly silent, looked like a ghost town of unplugged games and crooked prize shelves. At lane 12, the ball return coughed out a cracked bowling ball. Nina casually kicked it to the side. "That's the third one this week," she said. "We're told to rotate the same damaged gear so no one notices too much at once." They moved to the cleaning closet near the side exit, where Logan helped her refill the oil machine. Inside, he found rows of half-empty cleaning products, most with faded labels or broken caps. "This all you've got?" he asked. "We ration," Nina replied. "Craig keeps supplies locked in his office and only doles out what he thinks we need. Half the time we dilute it with water." As Logan maneuvered the oiling machine down the lane, he noticed it sputtered at the midpoint, skipping an entire section of wood. "It's been like that for weeks," Nina said, reading his expression. "That's why the balls curve weird. No one's resurfaced these lanes since last summer." Between mopping, disinfecting ball holes, and scraping gum off the gutters, Logan kept glancing at the overhead screens. A system glitch caused 3 lanes to freeze mid-game. One group walked out without paying. No one seemed to care. "You always cover this much ground alone?" he asked. Nina nodded. "We're down 2 techs. One quit after Craig docked his hours without warning. The other got sick, asked for time off, and was told not to come back." Logan's hands gripped the mop tighter. It was more than just poor management. This was neglect bordering on exploitation. As they scrubbed down the gutters at closing time, Logan spotted the janitor's checklist taped to the wall. None of the safety boxes had been signed in days, and yet the business still ran. Customers kept coming. But behind the neon and family-friendly branding, the cracks in the lanes were getting deeper, and no one upstairs seemed to be looking down. The next evening, Logan slipped behind the snack bar to help take out trash when he found Danny Rivera hunched over the fryer, pale and glassy-eyed, her apron stained with grease and powdered cheese. The heat radiating from the kitchen vents was stifling, and a stack of unopened supply boxes blocked the exit door. An obvious fire hazard. Danny winced as she lifted a basket of onion rings with trembling hands. "You okay?" Logan asked quietly. She forced a thin smile. "Just a bug. I'll push through." A moment later, she turned away and coughed into her elbow, then quickly wiped down the prep counter. Logan noticed her sleeves were damp with sweat and that she was limping slightly. "You should be home," he said. She shrugged. "Craig said if I leave early again, I'm off the schedule next week. I've got a 6-year-old. I can't risk it." As Logan helped clean the soda machine, he glanced around the cramped space. One refrigerator hummed erratically. A microwave was missing its door handle. The deep fryer's cord had black tape wrapped around exposed wiring. He opened a cabinet and found expired condiments shoved behind unused branded paper hats. He snapped a mental picture of it all. "Have you ever reported any of this?" he asked. Danny's voice was barely above a whisper. "Who would listen?" She looked around to make sure no one else was in earshot, then reached beneath the register and handed him a small flash drive wrapped in a sandwich bag. "Photos, time cards, notes. Been keeping track of stuff. Mold, broken locks, payroll changes." Logan stared at the drive in his hand. "Why give this to me?" Danny wiped her forehead with the back of her wrist. "Because you see things, you ask questions, and you don't treat me like trash." Before he could respond, Craig's voice barked from across the floor. "Danny, front counter backed up, get moving!" She flinched, muttered an apology to Logan, and rushed out with a tray of nachos. Logan pocketed the flash drive and quietly stepped back into the supply hall. The noise from the lanes returned like a low roar behind him. He stared at the flickering exit sign above the cluttered back door and thought, not for the first time, that this place wasn't just breaking rules, it was breaking people. That night, Logan lingered near the front desk during the late shift change, watching as the crowd thinned and the buzz of the lanes faded into low hums and clinking pins. Behind the desk stood Jalen J. Morris, a lanky young man with buzzed hair, alert eyes, and the kind of posture that suggested he'd stopped expecting things to improve a long time ago. He barely glanced at Logan as he counted bills from the register, but his voice was clear. "You're the new cleaner." "Yeah," Logan replied, leaning on the counter. "Eli," Jay gave a single nod. "You'll get used to the smell." Logan smirked, but before he could ask anything else, a customer stepped in from the drizzle outside. Wet jacket, 2 kids in tow. "Room full of mildew," she said. "You got another lane we can move to? My son's got asthma." Jay didn't even look up. "We're booked solid." "Not even a fan or air filter?" she asked, frustrated. "Nothing we can offer," Jay said flatly. "You can cancel if it's within the first hour." "We've been here for 2. "Then I'm sorry." She left, furious and defeated. When the coast cleared, Logan asked, "That normal?" Jay shrugged. "We don't get extras, no fans, no filters. Corporate says they'll send more next month. They don't." Logan watched him closely. "Don't you report any of this?" Jay finally looked up. "Report to who? Craig? Brent? They've known about the mold since spring. You think they care now?" His voice lowered. "You speak up, you disappear from the schedule, like Tanner, like Robin. They called out sick one weekend and never came back." He shut the register and began wiping the counter. "Fire alarms glitches every other night. Craig had me disable it 2 weeks ago. Cheaper than fixing it," he said. Logan took that in slowly. Jay was jaded, not careless. He saw everything. "Why stay?" he asked. Jay's mouth tightened. "Because it's a job." "Because rent's due? Because I haven't found anything better yet?" Logan nodded, choosing his next words carefully. "If someone were listening now, would you say all this again?" Jay's eyes met his. "If I knew they'd actually do something?" "Yeah." Logan said nothing more. He just turned and headed for the break room, heart heavy. The front desk wasn't just where customers checked in. It was where employees learned to check out emotionally, quietly, and with no expectations. Saturday afternoon was supposed to be Maple Lanes 4's busiest stretch. A birthday party was booked for lanes 4 through 6, the arcade was flickering with kids chasing ticket bonuses, and the snack bar line was nearly out the door. Logan was restocking towels in the restroom when he heard a loud thud, followed by a child's shriek. He rushed back to the lanes to find a boy no older than 9, sitting on the ground beside lane 5, holding his ankle, a wooden floorboard just before the foul line had come loose, curling slightly at one end. Craig Dorsey stormed in moments later, red-faced. "What the hell happened here?" he snapped at Nina, who was already kneeling beside the child. "Loose board," she said calmly. "I told you last week it needed repair." Craig waved her off and turned to the boy's mother, offering a free pizza voucher like it was a Band-Aid. Logan helped Nina guide the family to a quieter area, but something in her eyes had changed. No longer just tired, but burning with quiet rage. Back behind the scenes, Logan helped Nina gather tools to temporarily tape down the board. "We report safety hazards," she muttered, "and we get brushed off. Then when something goes wrong, it's our fault." She yanked duct tape from the dispenser, her movements sharp. That kid could have been seriously hurt. Logan steadied the board as she pressed the tape over it. "Is this how it's always been?" he asked. Nina paused. "I've been here since I was 17. My mom worked here too at the front desk, until she slipped on a spill and hurt her back. Craig said it wasn't on camera, so she got nothing." She tossed the tape aside. "I'm taking my GED this summer, hoping to go to Joplin Community for physical therapy." Logan looked at her. Sweat on her forehead, grease on her uniform, shoulders hunched but strong. "You'd be good at that," he said. She gave a short laugh. "If I can get out of here." As they cleaned up lane 5, a customer walked by and muttered something about the place falling apart. Nina didn't even react. "Do you ever think about what would happen if someone actually listened?" she asked softly. Logan didn't answer. He just bent down, picked up a splintered shard from the broken lane board, and slipped it into his pocket. A reminder, a warning. A line had been crossed, and it wasn't just on the hardwood. That night, Logan sat in a dimly lit motel room 2 blocks from Maple Lanes 4, hunched over an old laptop with the flash drive Danny had given him. The cracked AC unit sputtered behind him, but he barely noticed. His screen filled with damning images, close-ups of mold clustering along the ceiling of the party room, dated time cards with hours scribbled out and rewritten, A photo of a power strip soaked from a leaky pipe, plugged into a row of arcade machines. There were text screenshots too, one from Craig warning an employee not to stir the pot over broken safety lights, another telling Danny she'd be off the schedule indefinitely if she left early again. Logan scrolled through each file with growing dread, cataloging what he already knew and what he couldn't believe had been allowed to go unchecked. This wasn't just negligence, it was liability. And cruelty. He opened his notebook, flipping past sketches of the floor plan and notes from his conversations with Nina, Jay, and Danny. He began drafting a clean, structured report, bullet points, dates, infractions, patterns of retaliation. He included staff names, not just the ones he'd spoken to, but those who had disappeared from the schedule with no explanation. Then he opened his burner phone and made the call. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Yeah?" "It's Logan," he said. "I need a field team in Des Moines tomorrow, quietly. Bring HR and safety compliance. No uniforms." There was a pause. "You found something?" Logan exhaled. "I found everything." He backed up the files into a secure folder, encrypted the originals, and slipped the flash drive into the inside pocket of his hoodie. As he closed the laptop, he paused, staring at the last photo Danny had taken. An employee standing beside a pile of soaked mop heads. A cardboard box labeled "Emergency Cleanup" sagging with water damage. It was Nina. She was wiping her face with her sleeve, her eyes puffy, but her posture was still upright, still standing. Logan leaned back against the headboard, feeling the ache in his back and the weight in his chest. This wasn't just a single bad manager. It was a culture that had quietly rotted from the inside. He glanced at the time, nearly midnight. Tomorrow the reckoning will begin, but tonight, he let the silence stretch, staring at the ceiling, knowing full well that in just a few hours Maple Lane's once four would never be the same again. The next morning, Logan arrived early dressed, sharply this time in a navy blazer, slacks, and polished shoes. The moment he stepped into Maple Lane's 4, the regulars barely recognized him. He didn't speak to anyone, just quietly observed from the corner near the vending machines. At exactly 8:00 a.m., a plain white SUV pulled into the lot. 3 people stepped out, 2 women and 1 man, all dressed in business casual, each carrying a laptop bag or clipboard. No corporate logos, no fanfare. They moved with calm purpose. One nodded briefly to Logan, then headed straight for the manager's office. Logan followed behind and stood in the doorway as the team entered. Craig looked up from his computer, confused at first, then alarmed. "What is this? No one told me we had a compliance visit," he barked. "I need to call Brent." "You'll speak with us first, Mr. Dorsey," said the taller woman, eyes fixed on her laptop. "Then you may make your calls." Craig started to rise, but froze when Logan stepped fully into the office. His eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" Logan didn't flinch. "This won't take long." "You lied to me," Craig snapped. "You applied under a fake name." "I did," Logan said evenly, "because if I hadn't, I never would have seen what you let happen here." The compliance team continued their work unfazed, one already flipping through printed time cards. The room fell quiet as the second woman slid a document across the desk, a printout of altered employee hours. "These reductions were never approved. Multiple shifts were erased or rewritten. We've cross-referenced with security logs and shift reports." Craig's jaw tightened. "You think I wanted this? I'm keeping this place running on scraps. I've done my best." Logan stepped forward. "You didn't just cut corners, you cut people. You pushed sick employees to work, ignored safety hazards, and manipulated hours to save face. That's not leadership, it's damage control." Craig tried again. "You set the targets. You wanted numbers up." "I set standards," Logan replied, voice low and cold. "You turned them into excuses." The tall woman stood. "Effective immediately, Mr. Dorsey. You are suspended pending formal review. You'll be escorted off-site by our team. Do not access internal systems." Craig looked between them, visibly shrinking. "You're making a mistake." Logan stared at him. "No. I made a mistake when I trusted you." He turned and walked out. The team would handle the rest. For Logan, it was no longer about discipline. It was about rebuilding something that had nearly collapsed under his name. 1 week later, Maple Lane's 4 looked different. Quieter, more cautious, but beginning to breathe again. The arcade had been shut down for safety inspections, the party room closed for deep cleaning, and out-of-order signs now marked every broken lane with bold corporate-authorized tags. A new interim manager had arrived, Trina Holt, a seasoned recreation director with a background in youth outreach and team rebuilding. She moved through the facility with calm authority, greeting every employee by name, listening more than she spoke. Her first act wasn't giving orders, but pulling every worker one by one into the break room for private, no-pressure conversations. By midweek, she'd already restored hours for those Craig had punished and requested urgent building repairs that had sat ignored for months. Logan visited quietly that Friday, parking around the back and entering through the service hallway. He wore no badge, no blazer, just a simple collared shirt and jeans. He didn't announce himself, didn't gather the staff. Instead, he walked the lanes alone, pausing briefly at lane 5, the one with the splintered board, now freshly replaced and gleaming. He smiled faintly, recalling the chaos of that Saturday and the boy with the injured ankle. As he passed the supply closet, he opened the door and, without a word, taped a small white envelope inside. Inside it, a note in his handwriting. "You kept this alley running. Now let's build it better." Alongside it, a prepaid scholarship voucher, enough to cover Nina's GED fees and first semester at Joplin Community College. Outside, Danny wiped down tables near the snack bar. She looked up and waved. Logan waved back, quietly observing how she moved more steadily now, her posture no longer tight with stress. He passed Jay at the front desk, who offered a respectful nod. "They fixed the fire panel," Jay said casually, "and gave me a form to report anything anonymously. First time I filled out something that might actually matter." Logan nodded. "Good, keep doing it." Then, just as quietly as he arrived, he slipped out. Later that day, a company-wide memo went out from HQ. Unannounced inspections would become the norm, any staff could report directly to a new internal hotline, and retaliation would result in immediate termination. No names were mentioned, no scandals exposed. But inside Maple Lanes 4, the change was real. Not a perfect game yet, but finally, a clean start. The story of Logan Pierce and Maple Lanes 4 reveals a powerful lesson in leadership. True accountability starts at the top, and real change begins with seeing people, not just numbers. Logan had built his bowling alley empire from nothing, but as success grew, so did the distance between him and his frontline employees. When he finally stepped back into the daily grind, this time undercover, he uncovered more than just operational failures. He found exhausted workers, dangerous conditions, and a toxic culture built on fear and silence. What he learned wasn't just about bad management, it was about the cost of blind trust in systems and the human toll of looking the other way. His experience reaffirmed that leadership isn't just about setting goals, it's about listening, showing up, and protecting the people who keep the business alive. By taking responsibility, removing the toxic manager, and empowering his team, Logan showed that rebuilding isn't about punishment, it's about trust, integrity, and commitment to doing better. This story reminds us that dignity, safety, and respect should never be optional in the workplace, and that the strongest leaders are the ones willing to sweep the floors to see what's really beneath them.